of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the electrifying support which the people and the citizens of the West Bengal are showcasing to Prime Minister during his campaign trial. That is what Prime Minister has also spoken about, and made the reel about it also in the morning when the first public meeting started. Back to you.
Yeah, Harsha, definitely electrifying support, exactly the term that should be used for visuals like these. Now, Harsha, Prime Minister Modi is also scheduled to address a major rally at the Kavakhali ground in Siliguri on the 12th of April. That's just tomorrow. The Kavakhali ground now in Siliguri has once again emerged as a focal point for the Bharatiya Janata Party's election strategy, with, Prime Minister Modi set to address a public meeting there. The BJP also considers the venue to be lucky, believing that events held at the ground have historically yielded positive electoral outcomes. In fact, according to party's leaders, Narendra Modi's address from Kavakhali is often seen as a strong indicator of electoral momentum, something that just the party believes in. And with this belief, the Prime Minister is all scheduled to hold a public meeting at the venue just tomorrow, aiming to galvanize support ahead of the upcoming assembly polls in 2 phases on the 23rd and the 29th of April. Harsha, more details on that also.
Yes, you rightly pointed out. You spoke all about the fray of the election, and the venue you spoke about in Siliguri holds utmost importance because BJP has not only seen a high voter turnout in 2021 but in 2024 itself during the Lok Sabha elections as well. And Prime Minister tomorrow when he will be speaking in the public meeting in Siliguri, it holds of the utmost importance that the BJP leaders have also stated, each and every leader in the BJP who have planned the entire campaign for the Prime Minister Narendra Modi has stated how this campaign, the venue, the outreach of the people is exactly of the utmost priority and of the utmost, to gather more and more attention of the citizens of West Bengal. And therefore, tomorrow, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be addressing from Siliguri, from that particular ground, they'll be speaking about what the West Bengal government, what the TMC government have not done till now for the voters of the Siliguri, for the voters of the North Bengal. And right now, the entire attention and the focus is the North Bengal. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is not only covering the post of the North Bengal,
Harsha,
but also of the South Bengal as well. And this campaign clearly tells that
definitely,
how the
Harsha,
focus is entirely on
Right, Harsha. Thanks for getting us those details on the entire story. In fact, viewers, some prolific visuals that are coming in from Siliguri in West Bengal, where the Prime Minister is busy in his campaign. Now, viewers, shifting focus. The AIADMK General Secretary, Edapadi K. Palaniswamy, has expressed confidence that his party will win the upcoming Tamil Nadu Assembly elections with a swooping majority, predicting an NDA wave in the state of Tamil Nadu. Now, in an exclusive interview with Republic's Chief Editor-in-Chief Arnab Goswami, EPS vowed to take action against the DMK leadership, including Chief Minister M.K. Stalin, for alleged corruption and links to the drug mafia. Take a look at the glimpse of that interaction.
I'll make it more direct. Will you investigate Mr. Stalin? Will you investigate the ministers of his government? Because what happens is, in my years of experience as a journalist, I have seen that politicians promise these things during the campaign, but when they come to power, they forgive the top level leaders. My direct question to you is that will you investigate, whether it is for the drugs issue or for corruption issue or for the law and order issue, will you investigate Mr. Stalin? Will you investigate Udayanidhi Stalin, or will you only investigate at a lower level?
அதிமுக ஆட்சி அமைந்த பிறகு பல துறைகள் ஊழல் நடைபெற்றுக்கின்றன. அந்த துறையில் எந்தெந்த துறையில் ஊழப்பட்டுக்கின்றதோ அதில் சம்பந்தப்பட்டவர்கள் அனைவரும் விசாரிக்கப்படுவார்கள். அது மட்டுமல்ல, அண்மையில் அமலாக்கத்துறை ஆதாரத்தோடு சட்ட ஒழுங்கு டிஜிபிக்கு அறிக்கை அனுப்பப்பட்டுள்ளது. அந்த அறிக்கையில் குறிப்பிட்டவர்கள் மீது வழக்கு பதிவு செய்ய வேண்டும் என்று குறிப்பிட்டிருக்கிறது. 3 முறை அமலாக்கத்துறை சட்ட ஒழுங்கு டிஜிபிக்கு அறிக்கை அனுப்பப்பட்டும் அதன் மீது எந்த நடவடிக்கையும் எடுக்காத காரணத்தினால் அதிமுக சார்பாக நீதிமன்றத்துக்கு சென்று நீதிமன்றமும் அமலாக்கத்துறை ஆதாரத்தோடு சமர்ப்பிக்கப்பட்ட அறிக்கையின் அடிப்படையில் வழக்கு பதிவு செய்ய வேண்டும் என்று வலியுறுத்தி இருக்கிறது. இன்னும் அதுக்குண்டான நடவடிக்கை எடுக்கவில்லை. அதிமுக ஆட்சிக்கு வந்தவுடன் எந்தெந்த துறையில் ஊழல் நடைபெற்றிருக்கிறது என்று விசாரணை மேற்கொண்டு விசாரணையில் ஊழல் நடைபெற்றது நிரூபிக்கப்பட்டால் சட்ட நீதியாக யாரால் சம்பந்தப்பட்டார்களோ அவர் மீதெல்லாம் நடவடிக்கை எடுக்கப்படும்.
Now, viewers, following Edappadi Palaniswamy's scathing attacks against the Stalin-led government, Republic also spoke to TKS Elan Govan, a former Rajya Sabha member from the DMK, who hit back at EPS by pointing out the number of controversies that had erupted during the AIADMK rule. Listen into the sharp reply as political contentions unfold in Tamil Nadu.
Sir, the Edappadi K. Palaniswamy yesterday, the AIADMK General Secretary, pointed out that the DMK has direct links and relations with the drug mafia in the state, pointing out that only 400 out of 2,500 drug peddlers were arrested and said that DMK is safeguarding them, especially the drug criminals behind the police force.
See, when Edappadi Palaniswamy was the Chief Minister, drugs had started coming here, and our leader, Mr. M.K. Stalin, as an opposition party leader, raised this issue, telling that now the people have drugs have come here and it is selling in the open market. At that time, Edappadi did not accept it. In fact, the speaker wanted sent Mr. Stalin out of the house, and he was not allowed to raise the issue. Now Edappadi says that because of DMK, drugs have come. That incident is still in the minds of the people when Stalin, as an opposition party leader, was not allowed to raise the issue, and action was taken against him by the speaker. All those things are still in the minds of the people. So Edappadi cannot claim that during DMK period drugs have started coming. It is during Edappadi's period that drugs have started coming, but there was no action. Now we have arrested 2,500 people. At that time, how many people were arrested when Edappadi was Chief Minister, he must explain. And drugs have come from Gujarat port. And drugs are coming from outside Tamil Nadu, not within Tamil Nadu. So, who is bringing? Almost we can say that all these people are from the ruling side, Delhi, not here. So, what Edappadi says is a false. And he should know that people of Tamil Nadu, when Mr. Stalin raised the issue of drug here, what was he doing? Let him explain to that.
Amity has been ranked among the top universities globally for producing the most employable graduates by the Times Higher Education UK. Yet another testimony to Amity's excellent placement record.
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा, क्या स्वाद है? अरे मेरे राजा, राजा और मसाला, केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे, केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है? आलू चाट या फ्रूट चाट, स्वाद बढ़ाए चमकी चाट।
क्या बात है? स्वादिष्ट पकोड़े और फरसान, अरे चमकी चाट है इसकी जान।
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चमकी चाट।
Hi there, welcome back to your favorite deep dive show on stories contemporary and consequential for India. The Iran war tapered off this week with a tenuous ceasefire holding in West Asia. Irrespective of how it was brought about, it was a sigh of relief. And despite the relief, the consequences are going to be long-term. We are in a downward spiral of economic tightening that might last longer than captured by macro numbers in the present. So we will have to wait for some time before the inflation index and the Gini coefficient turn into the unintended missiles and drones of this war? For this episode, I am focusing on the geopolitical chessboard and how it is stacked going forward. Also, this week marked two significant developments on India's science and technology development front. Scientists attained criticality in a decades-long fast breeder reactor program, and the quantum mission secured 1,000-kilometer-long hacking-safe communication network in a first for the world. Away from the headlines, some serious good happening, and I capture that for you. Let's get going. Media is often blamed for focusing on a negative, depression-inducing news cycle with short-term viewership impact in mind. So I thought, let's bring to you something which makes every Indian proud, and more importantly, every Indian more secure. Two scientific and technological developments added to India's energy and communication security this week. First was the milestone of achieving a 1,000-kilometer-long secure quantum communication network. This is a photon-based hack-proof system that's come up in private space with innovation support from bodies like the DRDO and the Department of Science and Technology of the government. The capability translates into ultra-secure communication system for defense, banking, finance, and critical national infrastructure, sectors where data integrity and protection are paramount. Quantum gives security way above electronic encryption, and with laser-based data transfer offsets the need for laying costly optic fiber network. This is the beginning, but a breakthrough moment for India on indigenous secure data transfer tech. Second was scientists at the Kalpakkam nuclear facility attaining an important milestone in our fast breeder reactor program on April 6. The prototype nuclear reactor achieved criticality, which means that the nuclear reaction inside the fuel chamber reached self-sustaining scale. From here on, the chain reaction would be on its own, and the reactor would start generating nuclear power in some time. With this, India became the third only country in the world after Russia and China to be able to have this class of functioning reactors. Many others in the developed world, including America, France, and Japan, tried but failed in their respective endeavors. The United States tried this in the 1950s and 1960s and gave up after spending billions on the program. France did succeed in making one in the late 1980s, but couldn't sustain what with tech issues escalating costs. Even the Chinese only managed a demonstration scale prototype. That's what makes India's achievement noteworthy. And note was taken. The International Energy Agency commended our scientists because they know that the FBR goes beyond immediate energy supplies. It graduates India's nuclear power program into phase 2, focused on these fast breeder reactors, which, as the name suggests, breed or multiply their own fuel. Scientists working on the project innovatively called it the Akshaya Patra moment for them. The development comes at a critical moment when the Iran war has compromised our energy security and created a Persian Gulf-sized hole in our forex reserves that would outlast the end of war. With oil scaling new peaks and gas supplies disrupted for months, if not years, the focus on nuclear power with the prototype fast breeder reactor gives hope that we would succeed in tiding over the crisis better than others. The arrival of 1 or 2 tankers carrying crude or LPG from the Gulf has hogged headlines for hours, underscoring the scale of the disruption. What this crisis has underscored is that energy independence is sovereignty. We can't depend on the Middle East, but more importantly, in the next cycle, whenever it happens, we cannot afford to depend on America or China either, our two competitors in a decade from now for our energy needs. That's where the Kalpakkam fast breeder reactor and associated developments in India's nuclear program gain significance. 6 decades after the program was started by the likes of Homi Bhabha and Vikram Sarabhai, we still produce only 8 gigawatts of nuclear power, a paltry 3% of total energy consumption of the country. The present government has set an ambitious target of scaling it up by more than 10 times to 100 gigawatts by 2047. Enablers were needed, and the FBR, along with the Shanti Law passed in the winter session of Parliament, provide just that. The present generation of pressurized heavy water reactors use enriched uranium and produce plutonium-239 as a waste product. The FBR, on the other hand, uses this waste plutonium as fuel and keeps producing more and more of it. That's where the game begins. India has no uranium. We have to import. And that subjects us to global nuclear power politics. The fast breeder reactor brings us out of that pressure chamber in one stroke. And it does not end there. India has little or no uranium, but we have vast thorium reserves. The beauty of FBR is that it can use thorium, and the byproduct of thorium fuel is uranium. We are sorted for centuries insofar as nuclear fuel is concerned in that case. So here is the deal. 1, we scale up our power generation. 2, we free ourselves from global nuclear fuel blackmail. 3, we pivot to cleaner energy fuel, thus reducing our carbon footprint. This would help India achieve our net zero emissions target perhaps earlier than 2070. For a growing energy-hungry economy like ours, this is the boost we could have gotten earlier, but nevertheless. Imagine just one ecosystem, that of data centers for the AI industry. AI-focused servers can consume 10 to 15 times more energy than traditional industries. From below 2 gigawatts, now it is likely to scale to 10 gigawatts by 2030. This is a potential bottleneck for our power grids to handle. As father of India's nuclear program, Homi Jehangir Bhabha had famously said, "No power is as costly as no power," emphasizing the role of energy in overall security calculus from development to defense. The Iran war shock in industrial towns like Morbi and Surat in Gujarat or Tirupur in Tamil Nadu, where thousands of units shut and migrant laborers were forced to go back home, has underscored yet again the vision behind Bhabha's quotable quote. The fast breeder reactor is not just a technological achievement, but a decisive leap towards long-term energy security. It underscores that our scientific community can deliver, can secure our future on our own terms. It embodies Atmanirbharta in tech, energy, and consequent strategic autonomy. And that's where the Shanti Act dimension comes into play. The Sustainable Harnessing and Advancement of Nuclear Energy for Transforming India Act 2025 is a legislation that puts India's energy security in a national security shell. In 2024, India's per capita electricity generation stood at just 1,400 kilowatt hour against China's at 7,000 plus, almost 5 times. In the United States, an individual has 12,700 kilowatt hour electricity at their disposal. This is a clear developmental gap, and the Gulf crisis has shown it is a chasm with sovereignty consequences. In this evolving matrix, nuclear energy is no more a luxury, but a necessity. The advantages are too many to ignore. The sustainable supplies against intermittent nature of solar or wind power, for example. The massive land requirement for the two vis-a-vis a compact nuclear reactor. The climate argument seals the deal. Dirty or clean, coal can't match the emission standards of nuclear. To scale up to 100 gigawatts needs investment of over $200 billion. That's where the Shanti Act comes in. It frees the atomic energy sector for the private enterprise, and in that sense marks a structural break from the past. It modernizes India's civil nuclear framework in a manner that private capital can go up and down the production cycle under strict regulatory oversight of the government. Add to this the innovation being worked upon to bring in small modular reactors or SMRs that can be deployed within 3 to 4 years, and we are looking at plugging a critical gap in India's march to progress. The disruption brought forth by Donald Trump's Iran war is going to make rest of the world also to pivot back to nuclear energy. And with the enablers in place, India stands at the forefront to take the tide. Moving on.
And so we have been clear and consistent in our objectives throughout this conflict. First, we will protect our people in the region. Second, while taking the necessary action to defend ourselves and our allies, we will not be drawn into the wider war. And third, we will keep working towards a swift resolution that brings security and stability back to the region.
This is the strongest that UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer can project or protest when angry. He was making the British position clear before flying to the Middle East to try his hands at opening the Strait of Hormuz. Starmer has defined this as a generational crisis from Britain's security prism. The Guardian piece that he wrote makes a couple of points. One, Britain must bolster its energy and military security. And two, it should pivot to Europe. Brexit seems so distant. NATO chief Mark Rutte has regretted calling Trump daddy, but atavism of the past made him still want American cover while in Washington this week. Reports suggested the meeting with Trump did not go well. The alliance is under severe stress. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz wants it salvaged, but maybe not beyond a point. Europe stands exposed. It punched way above its weight for far too long. Ukraine proved the gaps in its strategic capabilities in its own backyard. The Iran war has shown the limits of its ambition outside its area of influence. Between Ukraine and Iran, Europe has realized its lack of power. The impotence of international law in this tumultuous free-for-all, unleashed by an anxious America personified by Trump, means Europe would need to go back to the drawing board on what values should drive them in future. Multiculturalism has become a fire at home. Multilateralism, an uncontrolled guerrilla abroad. Ceasefire, howsoever tenuous, is a sigh of relief. Does not matter that Pakistan played postman or just postman. For good or bad, this is not the first time Pakistan has both weaponized geography and leveraged the Muslim Brotherhood. It helped that Trump has a soft corner for General Munir, who knows how much the American president loves the jingles of Bitcoin. Let's face it, the ceasefire was sought by everyone. First and foremost by Donald Trump. A truce is victory when you have lost the war. At over 24 fighter aircrafts lost, this is the highest casualty of American war machines since the first Gulf War in 1991. Perception-wise, Iran has proven itself to be the Goliath that was underestimated by a wide margin. Make no mistake, America is still powerful. It can still wreak vengeance. It can still carry shock and awe military operations. Just that America's power carries less power. The vengeance is more meme-friendly. The shock and awe less shocking. The Iran war has unraveled the limits of American power. Donald Trump has marked a point of no return in America's great power decline. With his 41 days military incursion in the Middle East, Iran has proven a point. It stood its ground. It underscored the power of asymmetric warfare. It underpinned the value of resolve in fighting an enemy hundreds times mightier by sheer firepower. One Iranian diplomat made a graph of Trump's statements, and it looked like the ECG of a patient going through myocardial infarction. Power without purpose blunts the machine. Decision without direction gets you stuck. Result is credibility gap. America's credibility gap post the Iran war stands at galaxy size. Hear this.
Well, I have very good relationships with Kim Jong-un, North Korea. I mean, a lot of people would say, oh, that's terrible. No, it's good. In fact, someday I'll see him. I look forward to seeing him. He was very good with me. We had 2 meetings. We had 2 summits. We got along great. I know him better than you do. I know him better than anybody, almost, other than his sister. His sister knows him pretty well. Now, I know him well, and I got along with him.
This is Trump talking of Kim Jong-un as his friend. Imagine how would the South Koreans have reacted listening to this. Most likely Seoul has already decided to beef up its defense budget. With the carrier strike groups from Okinawa parked in the Middle East, Tokyo would be wondering if the American security umbrella is still there. If Japan is gaping, Taiwan is gasping. Taipei would be watching the developments with unease. The Middle East crisis reinforces a dangerous lesson. Red lines today are negotiable. Escalation can be ambitious, and responses are delayed by politics. For Taiwan, which relies on deterrence underwritten by America rather than depth, these ambiguities matter profoundly. That's why, societally, it has already made a hedge with its leader of opposition, Cheng Li-woon, head of the Kuomintang party, spending 10 days in China this week, including a handshake with Xi Jinping in Beijing's Forbidden City. Allies would still want American backing, but would not trust its durability or longevity. Long after Trump is gone, allies would be mistrusting, enemies more confident of poking a probe. America is no more a player that dictates the tempo. It more often responds to others' moves. With all the drones and missiles that dodged the THAAD and Patriot air defense systems, the Gulf nations have realized to their cost that the umbrella leaks. Gulf security for decades rested on a simple formula: energy flows in exchange of American protection. That bargain is no longer taken for granted. To be honest, Saudi and Qatar are not abandoning the United States, but they are diversifying. Riyadh's mutual defense pact with Islamabad was not a commentary on General Munir's capacity, but a hedge against a diminishing protector. Listen to this. Trump mocking Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman.
A man that we just discussed, the king, the future king of Saudi Arabia. And I also love the king of Saudi Arabia. What a man he is. When I was there, we bonded. He would grab me to get up. He was a little frail at the time, and this was a long time ago, and he's still doing well. And he'd grab my arm to get up when I was sitting next to him. And they said that's the only time he's ever grabbed anybody. He would grab me all the time. And I said, I think he likes me. And he did like me, and he still likes me, and he's a great man, and say hello to him. He's a great guy with a great son.
This one statement would guarantee a long-term pivot in the House of Saud against America. Cold pragmatism with an overlay of personal peeve. Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese was vocal in opposing the war, and first to make a call to Beijing and stitch an energy security agreement. The next American president, whether Rubio or Vance from Republicans, or Newsom or Garcetti from Democrats, might soften the impact. But the institutional memory that Trump would leave behind on strategic communities the world over would be long-lasting. The adjustments made, the recalibrations done to the respective security doctrines would be permanent. The second Gulf War lasted just 20 days before US ground troops were comfortably inside Iraq. Now, after 41 days, America has managed one incursion forced by a pilot rescue, not invasion. So much has changed in terms of American power over the last 23 years. Not that it held back in 2003. Downfall of Saddam Hussein and the Ba'ath Party empowered the Shias in Iraq, gave Iran a land access to Syria and Lebanon, and thus to the doorsteps of Israel. The counter moves by the West led to the rise of the Islamic State, and the vicious cycle continues. Listen to this.
We sent some guns, but the group that was supposed to give, which I said would happen to my people, I said it, I called it exactly. We sent guns, a lot of guns. They were supposed to go to the people so they could fight back against these thugs. You know what happened? The people that they sent them to kept them because they said, what a beautiful gun, I think I'll keep it. So I'm very upset with a certain group of people, and they're going to pay a big price for that.
This is Trump admitting that he was scammed by somebody, by the Kurds or a Kurdish militia that kept the guns supplied by the Trump administration to foment a civil war in Iran's north. But what it speaks of American power, that it can be taken lightly. If there is a clear beneficiary of the current disorder, it is China. Beijing has not rushed in with troops or ultimatums. It has just waited, silently. China proved its might with pictures instead. Pictures of destroyed American military hardware, the pinpointed locations for which were provided by Chinese electronic war machine, quietly over encrypted lines that Americans could not breach. A nudge to Pakistan here, a cajoling of Afghanistan there, a wink at Iran, a stare back at Israel, but not one word from Xi Jinping. Every American misstep, every European hesitation strengthens China's appeal as an alternative partner. For sure, Beijing does not promise security guarantees, but delivers autonomy on debt. America is expending its energy on takeover, but China is just accumulating influence. Amid the chaos of the Middle East are the contours of a transition. Iran has proved that the era of unchallenged American primacy is past us, though its replacement might not be ready yet. It is for sure in the making. Till that happens, we are in the midst of a free-for-all. Middle East is warning that old playbooks do not apply. That brings me to India, as I always ask. What's in it for us? First up, we have handled the crisis well on two fronts. One, the security of diaspora. And two, squeezing every possible barrel from the high seas and Hormuz alike. Three, we have taken care of our neighbors, supplying petrol, diesel, gas, even in these times, to Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Maldives, among others. It is a marker of our grip with realpolitik that Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke to every head of state or government in the Middle East twice, including Iran, and External Affairs Minister Jaishankar 4 times each. Opposition says why we did not mediate like Pakistan. Short answer, we did not mediate just like China did not, or like China did. Quietly, behind the scenes. Also, let's not forget, in the halcyon days of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru's diplomatic grandstanding, what with Korean mediation and the Colombo plan, we still got China breathing down our neck in Assam. We still had to live with the ignominy of PL 480 wheat. Those lessons should not be forgotten. Your diplomacy is only as strong as you are internally. No better foreign policy than a stable, secure, and strong domestic policy. I think the lesson is well taken. Thanks for watching.
प्यास बुझाए ठंडक लाए सबको भाए जीरा से MTH का जलजीरा जीरा से
जीरा से असली रिफ्रेशिंग, असली स्वाद, असली मजा.
Join International Institute of Hotel Management. Call 983-10-50,000.
प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो मिलाओ और खाओ
8 मिनट में तैयार.
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा हार्डकोर मसाला. केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे. केसरिया से मन जोगी
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार. विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी.
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
सैंडविच लस्सी और छाछ
हर घूंट में चमकी चाट, ड्राई फ्रूट और दही बड़े, चमकी चाट से स्वाद बढ़े।
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चंकी चाट।
We are entering a very dangerous inflection point in this war. From here in onwards, either things could escalate beyond.
Amity has been ranked among the top universities globally for producing the most employable graduates by the Times Higher Education UK. Yet another testimony to Amity's excellent placement record.
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद, यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा, क्या स्वाद है। अरे मेरी राजा, सबका राजा आरती और मसाला।
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है।
सैंडविच, लस्सी और छाछ।
हर घूंट में चमकी चाट। अब बताओ स्वाद आया।
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चंकी चाट।
आर प्योर शाही पनीर मसाला, डिलीशियस, हेल्दी एवरीडे।
अभी तो कह रहा था कि अभी चीफ मिनिस्टर कह रहे थे, उससे आगे भी सभी लोग कह रहे थे कि मणिपुर में पीस आ गया। ये पीस है क्या? अगर ये पीस है तो हमें ये पीस नहीं चाहिए हमें।
आर प्योर सूजी पास्ता, उबालो मिलाओ और खाओ, 8 मिनट में तैयार। क्या टेस्ट है, सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला।
Join International Institute of Hotel Management. Call 983-10-50,000.
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है। आलू चाट या फ्रूट चाट, स्वाद बढ़ाए चमकी चाट।
क्या बात है। स्वादिष्ट पकोड़े और फरसान, अरे चमकी चाट है इसकी जान।
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चंकी चाट।
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे। केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ।
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार। विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी।
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद, यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मामा, क्या स्वाद है। अरे मेरी राजा, सबका राजा आरती और मसाला।
From Asia's largest news headquarters, setting the agenda for Bharat. You're watching Republic.
Hello, welcome. You're watching This Is Exclusive with me, Shavin Sen. After 40 days of war, the warring nations have finally come together in Islamabad. What is now being seen as a fragile truce. Will both sides be able to come to terms with the fact that it is time for peace? And as the talks are essentially happening in Islamabad, with Pakistan essentially positioning themselves as the broker of peace. But will that really happen when it has essentially started on the wrong foot? Tonight on This Is Exclusive, we'll go live to Islamabad to get you the latest details of what's really happening on the ground and whether at all both the countries will now come together and iron out their differences. All this and much more on this edition of This Is Exclusive. But up first, let me take you through the headlines we are tracking at this hour. In a social media post, Trump brags about US oil and energy reserves, says a huge number of oil tankers are heading to the United States of America now. Iranian and American delegations hold talks in Islamabad, negotiations underway. Iran gives a list of 4 demands to the United States, includes complete sovereignty of Hormuz and preparations by the United States of America for what is being seen as a prevention of the war. India flagged LPG vessel Jag Vikram carrying 20,400 metric ton of LPG safely crosses Strait of Hormuz and is expected to dock in India on 15th of April. Iranian leaders warn it will continue bombings if Israel first policy is followed during the talks. Well, as peace talks in Islamabad between US and Iran are now underway, Iran's delegation led by Parliament Speaker Mohammad Baghai Ghalibaf and Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, meeting Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and senior military officials. The US side is headed by Vice President J.D. Vance, has also held separate meetings with Shehbaz Sharif. Tehran has conveyed its core demands through the Pakistani channel. Full Iranian sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz, complete war reparations from the US, unconditional release of blocked assets, and a durable ceasefire across West Asia, particularly full implementation in Lebanon. Iran has also said that Tehran has entered these talks with deep distrust. Citing past US breaches of promises, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghai said that Iran is coordinating closely with Lebanon to ensure ceasefire compliance on all fronts. Now, as Iran puts forward its demands, US calls for unrestricted opening of the Hormuz Strait, complete halt to nuclear enrichment, and curbs on Iran's missile program. Ladies and gentlemen, what has essentially happened currently in Islamabad is Iran being extremely wary of the promises that have been made by United States of America and whether at all they will see this through. And it also started with the fact that US Vice President essentially called this negotiation done in bad faith. So how exactly will this happen? Will all the countries come together and be on the negotiating table? And not to forget, one of the main stakeholders as far as this war is concerned, Israel, is not on the negotiating table. And they say that they will continue pounding Lebanon because Lebanon is not part of the ceasefire deal. Before I go across to our reporters on the ground in Islamabad to get you the latest, I want to quickly take you through all that has happened in the last few hours, the Delhi rally, and finally some reports essentially suggesting that the warring countries will be coming together on the negotiating table. First, take a look at this report.
High-stakes talks between US and Iran delegations are underway in Islamabad. The crucial talks between both the nations aimed at preventing West Asia war to escalate. But there has been no direct talks between both the delegations yet. As per Iranian media reports, Tehran has put forward 4 of its major demands in front of US via Pakistan. Hormuz is non-negotiable and ceasefire across the West Asia region. A major point of contention remains Lebanon, with Iran demanding a halt to the Israeli strikes, a condition the US and Israel are not ready to accept. Reportedly, Washington may be willing to lift sanctions, but deep mistrust continues to shadow the negotiation. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has said that Tehran has entered these talks with complete distrust. And a stark warning from Iran's first Vice President Mohammad Reza Arif: if there will be an Israel-first approach, there will be no deal. Meanwhile, Pakistan's PM Shehbaz Sharif has met Vice President once, and Iranian delegation held a second meet with the commander of the Pakistani army. With tensions still simmering, the Islamabad talks could either mark the first step towards peace or could result in further escalation.
Well, in fact, before I go across to our reporters and analysts in Pakistan to get us the latest details, I want to quickly take you through what are the key issues, what are the demands that have been made by United States of America, and of course, the demands that have been made by Iran. Pakistan, in fact, is hosting the key talks between United States and Iran, and this is happening in Islamabad, and Islamabad is essentially positioning themselves as someone who's brokering the peace. The 4 core issues between both of the nations remain at the heart of the deadlock. First, let's take a look at it: sanctions. Iran is demanding the immediate lifting of all the US and international sanctions tied to its nuclear and missile programs, plus the unblocking of billions in foreign assets. The Trump administration, however, is using sanctions as a leverage and has signaled that they will only ease once Tehran agreed to US demands. Now let's move on to the others. Second, the shipping traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. That's the second point that we have put on the screens. Traffic remains well below the normal levels despite the ceasefire. US insists on the strait's immediate, complete and unrestricted reopening with no Iranian tolls or interference. Trump also claimed in his most recent tweet that the process of clearing the Strait of Hormuz has begun. Iran, on the other hand, wants formal acknowledgement of its authority over the waterway and the right to manage the passage. Let's move to the third one. That's nuclear enrichment. And this happens to be the biggest sticking point. Washington demands zero enrichment on Iranian soil, full dismantlement of enrichment facilities, and surrender of stockpiles. Tehran flatly rejects this, insisting to enrich uranium. And the final point is on attacks on Lebanon. Iran is pushing for an immediate and permanent ceasefire in Lebanon to halt Israeli strikes on Hezbollah. US has so far refused to link the Hormuz and nuclear files to events in Lebanon, calling them separate issues. Now, these are the key issues. We'll go to the demands in a short while from now, but let me first introduce our analyst joining us would be joining us in a short while from now. Before I bring in our analyst as well as our guest from Islamabad, there you have it. In fact, Irfan is joining us from the venue, and we also have our other guest who's joining us, Javed. Thank you very much. Irfan, I want to first come to you to get a sense of what's really happening right now. There was a lot of confusion about whether at all we would have the warring countries, Iran and United States of America, on the negotiating table, and perhaps Pakistan being the intermediary. All this while it was being reported that there are separate meetings happening. Bring us up to speed as to what's really happening from the venue that you're reporting.
It was a wonderful day today, and both delegations who visited Pakistan, they had separate meetings with Prime Minister of Pakistan, and his team. The Prime Minister was accompanied by Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar, who is also the Deputy Prime Minister, and Interior Minister Mohsin Naqvi, and both the guys, they are very good in negotiations, and the Prime Minister had the initial meeting with Iranian delegations, which were Indian side. They really criticized that, there were no smiles and, no good gestures, but it was really effective and fruitful meeting, and I believe that it was just a welcoming meeting. There was no negotiations and no draft or, like conditions, were exchanged with each other. And in the second meeting, if you have seen, the visuals, it was wonderful. Quite welcoming. Smiles were passed around and they were hugging each other. And, after that meeting with J.D. Vance and his, colleagues, government of Pakistan issued a statement that it was really a fruitful meeting and it's a step towards a global peace. And I believe it was a wonderful day, not only for Pakistan, but for Iran, United States of America, and rest of the countries, those who are being badly affected by the Strait of Hormuz. And I believe that India is one of them because I have seen long queues of people who were carrying, LNG cylinders on their shoulders and they were waiting for, gas because its price has gone spike high and the shortage was already there. And I have seen people in India who was waiting for, to get fuel in their bikes. The similar situation was around in Pakistan and other countries, and Europe. European countries particularly, they were also being affected, but they are. They have a lot of resources. But if the situation had continued, it would have been affect them very badly. And so the reason why they just foresighted European countries and they put a lot of pressure on Donald Trump, so that forced them actually to go for negotiations, and it's a win-win situation for both the countries. Particularly Iran and the United States. But I would explain one more thing, that we should not mix Lebanon and Israel with Iran, because these are two issues. Although Iran is insisting that, this should be part of the truce, but I believe that, it's a separate issue because United States is not involved in killing in Lebanon. So because these dialogues are being led by United States. So they have given very strong message to Netanyahu that he should stop bombing in Lebanon because it is affecting the peace talks. It was really wonderful day. I believe that today's were welcoming meetings and tomorrow there are chances that both the sides, they will sit together across the table and would exchange the drafts.
Irfan, I'll look at the tangibles in a short while from now. Let me just get a quick analysis from Javed, who's also joining us on this broadcast. Javed, we can't perhaps gloss over the fact that Iranians do have this kind of distrust right now, particularly because they've been backstabbed in the past. What's the sense that you're getting right now? Have the Iranians agreed to budge a little further? And is there an expectation that there could be a joint statement issued by both the countries as far as the way forward is concerned?
I think Americans have lost kind of the bargaining chip that they had before the start of this war. American could have had a far better deal before the war, but now things have changed altogether. Americans might have militarily degraded Iran, but in strategic context, in strategic perspective, Iran has gained a lot. And now things have changed altogether. That is why it looks to me that Iran, in a way, is also dictating its terms. Now Iran has made it a clear point that Lebanon war front has to be closed. By the way, this was part and parcel of the initial understanding that Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif had with the White House, and the text of the statement of the Prime Minister was coordinated with the White House. So White House did agree, but later on, under pressure from Netanyahu, Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, they backtracked from that statement and said there is some misunderstanding. I think this is going to be one of the conditions. Probably Netanyahu has agreed to scale back the number of the attacks, but he is not going to end the Lebanon's war front. I think this is just a part of the progress which has been made so far, but there is a possibility that the Netanyahu may go for a ceasefire, maybe for a certain number of the days, as long as these talks are proceeding. Another demand from Iran is, which going by Reuters report, is that America must release $7 billion amount of the assets that it had frozen. I think it looks like that this is also going to be accepted. But again, the bone of contention is about the nuclear program. And my understanding is that the Iranians are going to insist that it is going to enrich the uranium up to 37% as allowed by the IAEA within the rules and regulation, the protocol of the IAEA. Americans want a zero enrichment. I don't think Americans are in a position now to dictate its terms, because the American economy is going from bad to the
you're saying, Javed,
the
they'll
worst
accept
because
it?
of its connectivity with the international global economy.
Javed, you're saying,
context,
because that's a very crucial point. Sorry, I'm interrupting you, because that happens to be the sticking point right now. Nuclear enrichment. And Iranians, in fact, when I spoke to them here in India, they indicated that the 10-point ceasefire plan that had been floated earlier, in which nuclear enrichment was allowed, was accepted by the Americans. Are you suggesting that there is a high possibility that Americans will concede when it comes to nuclear enrichment?
I think the Americans are going to concede to the extent that Iran can retain its nuclear program. But there is another problem, and that is about the 400 kilogram enriched uranium. I think it was up to the 60% enriched uranium, which Iranians had taken away from the nuclear sites before being destroyed by the Israel and the Americans in June last year. So I think that is going to be at the heart of the problems. I don't think the Iranians are going to hand over enriched nuclear material to the Americans, but there could be possibility that Iran may be agreeing to hand that over to some third country. That is just one such possibility. And then I think there is going to be a very interesting aspect that now there is a new reality which has emerged in the Arabian Sea, and that is the Iran is showing its sovereignty on the Strait of the Hormuz, and it looks like that the Americans perhaps are going to agree that the Iran could go for imposition of some kind of a toll tax on the oil ships moving in and out from that part, and perhaps particularly coming from the Gulf states. And then Oman is going to have some share of the toll tax, and probably Americans will have some share. That is an indication I'm getting from the Donald Trump's press talk. But again, that is something which is easier said than done. Now, this new reality of Strait of Hormuz, Iranian showing its sovereignty, I think Americans have got everything to lose. It was not a reality before the start of this war.
Okay, let me go back to Irfan, because he's there where the talks are essentially taking place. Irfan, what are we to expect if the talks are over today? Because Iranian media was reporting saying that the delegation is in Pakistan for just one day. It was in a way that they suggested that it will happen today or it's not going to happen any further. Are you getting a sense that somewhere down the line they will perhaps come to a middle ground and some acceptance and some announcement? Is it likely to be made? And is Shehbaz Sharif addressing the nation later tonight?
I believe so, that all the parties, including Pakistan, they have agreed to a point that unless until they do not reach to any conclusion, they would not disclose anything to the media. And generally, they would give good news that talks are going on. And one more thing, that I think that if they do not reach to a conclusion, but at least after 2 or 3 days, if talks continues, I mean, till tomorrow or day after tomorrow, Pakistan has made enough arrangements for that, and Pakistan is in a position to convince J.D. Vance that he should stay some more days, unless until truce do not take place. But at least we are very much hopeful that at least this war, they extend, this peace, it would extend for another month or so, unless until it does not, completely, all the parties do not reach to an agreement where it satisfies Iran, United States, and rest of the countries, particularly Middle Eastern countries. They are not part of these talks, but indirectly, they are there. They are getting information, and they have. Today even Finance Minister met Finance Minister of Saudi Arabia, but they are in direct touch with Prime Minister of Pakistan. But they are very much concerned, and they are indirect stakeholders, because United States does not share any boundary with Iran or any Middle Eastern country. But Iran knows that, particularly UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, they are close allies of the United States. And if Iran is in danger, it would directly hit to these countries, and Iran has already announced that. So that means, their not wishes, but their conditions would also be part of this discussion, that how they can be saved in the future. Because if United States leave Iran as a victorious country in the region, it would be really harmful for those countries. Those who are neighbors of this, Iran. So for that matter, Pakistan has to consider Saudi Arabia's, concerns, and as well as UAE's concerns. So because it would directly affect them, so they cannot leave anything in the middle of this strait. So because I have gone through so many other reports that they have an alternative plan, that another pipeline would be carried through Israel and then to the Central Asian countries, the rest of the world. But it is not feasible. So that's the only route, from where 20% of the oil is being taken to those countries. So they are concerned, particularly China, Pakistan, even India, because India, I have seen all the TV screens of Indian media, they are not happy with those negotiations, and they have been declaring Pakistan as terroristan and shaky talks. And I don't know why they are pessimists. I believe that India should be hopeful that these talks to reach to a conclusion. So it could benefit as well, because it's a matter of life and death of so many people, and it can be an economic disaster for so many countries. So I believe that if talks continues for another 2 to 3 days, there will be a good statement come out of this. And I believe unless until they do not reach to a conclusion, Shehbaz Sharif would not go for a kind of an address or any joint statement.
Well, thank you very much, Irfan, for joining us from outside the venue of the talks. Javed, just a quick word before I let you go. Net, are you expecting, because you must have spoken to officials there who have been part of the delegation, what's the sense that you're getting? Is there a midway or perhaps some sort of a finality that are we expecting from these talks? 30 seconds to you before I move on to the other big story that we're tracking.
I think the broad contours of the negotiations are going to be held today, and these may be concluded today or tomorrow. But from there onwards, there is going to be technical level discussions, and it could take days and perhaps weeks. So it is just a beginning of a broader, developing a broader understanding on how to resolve this crisis. Particularly, there is going to be deep-seated technical discussion on the nuclear program. I think that is going to be important in coming days and weeks.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us on This Is Exclusive, coming to you live from Islamabad. That was Javed and Irfan. Thank you very much for putting this into perspective and also bringing us up to speed. Now, the other big thing that we are essentially focusing on is the price of war, which has never been equal. And what we have essentially seen, ladies and gentlemen, is that one sticking point has been the red lines that have been crossed in this particular war. School children have been targeted. Iranians now claim that 600 schools have actually been targeted by United States of America. And there was one message that was sent across by the Iranian delegation when they landed in Islamabad. It was blood-soaked school bags and pictures of those children who lost their lives in that dastardly attack that was carried out by the Israelis and the Americans. Take a look at this detailed report.
The price of any war is unfair. US investigations seem to have forgotten the February 28 Minab attack.
So I can report that CENTCOM has designated an investigating officer to complete a command investigation. The command investigation will take as long as necessary to address all the matters surrounding this incident. And the investigating officer is from outside CENTCOM and is a general officer. But I will note to this group and to the world, there's only one entity in this conflict between us and Iran that never targets civilians. Literally never targets civilians. I look at the process that's used on dynamic strikes or on boat strikes and others. we have a very high fidelity process in that case. So we don't target, Iran does. We will investigate, we'll get to the truth, and we'll share it when we have it.
A US strike that killed 168 school children, all girls aged just between 7 to 12 years. A US's Tomahawk hit the elementary school in 3 separate strikes, leaving behind missile debris. But more evidences point towards the US's brutal attack on Minab and about 600 other schools inside Iran. New reports suggest a PRSM ballistic missile hit the schools, including Minab. The precision strike missile hit was recorded in a simultaneous strike in Iran's Lamed, targeting another school and leaving 21 dead. A missile that wasn't even fully tested was used to strike at least 3 areas inside Iran. At each location, the burst of pellets created large-scale damage, with evidence of these pellets ingrained onto the walls of structures that were struck. While the United States is pushing the blame under the carpet, the evidences of their possible war crimes run far deeper than what meets the eye.
आर प्योर शाही पनीर मसाला, डिलीशियस, हेल्दी एवरीडे.
Amity has been ranked among the top universities globally for producing the most employable graduates by the Times Higher Education UK. Yet another testimony to Amity's excellent placement record.
प्यास बुझाए, ठंडक लाए, सबको भाए जीरा से, MTH का जलजीरा जीरा से.
जीरा से असली रिफ्रेशिंग, असली स्वाद, असली मजा.
MTH.
Character, the taste of success.
आर प्योर सूजी पास्ता उबालो मिलाओ और खाओ
8 मिनट में तैयार.
क्या टेस्ट है सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला.
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
सैंडविच लस्सी और छाछ.
हर घूंट में चमकी चाट. ड्राई फ्रूट और दही बड़े. चमकी चाट से स्वाद बढ़े.
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चमकी चाट.
We are entering a very dangerous inflection point in this war. From here in onwards, either things could escalate beyond control, or there could be a surprise ceasefire. He is very fond of trying to make the world hang on to his every word, pearls of wisdom, but the last speech was a great disappointment. Everybody was hoping that he would announce an off-ramp, a ceasefire, and then finish this war, because the world is set.
Join International Institute of Hotel Management. Call 983-10-50,000.
थोड़े में ज्यादा स्वाद ये हित तो है इसकी खास बात. वाओ मम्मा क्या स्वाद है. अरे मेरे राजा सबका राजा आर प्योर मसाला.
केसरिया से मन जोगी हुआ रे, दिल झूमे देखो मतवारा हुआ रे. केसरिया से मन जोगी
हर पल मनाओ केसरी त्योहार. विमल, बोलो जुबान केसरी.
चमकी चाट से क्या बना है?
सैंडविच लस्सी और छाछ
हर घूंट में चमकी चाट। अब बताओ स्वाद आया?
असली स्वाद सिर्फ चंकी चाट।
अभी तो कह रहा था कि अभी चीफ मिनिस्टर कह रहे थे, उससे आगे भी सभी लोग कह रहे थे कि मणिपुर में पीस।
Donald Trump now brags about American oil and energy reserves, says a huge number of oil tankers are heading to America now. Iranian-American delegations hold talks in Islamabad, negotiations still underway. Iran gives a list of 4 demands to America, includes complete sovereignty of Hormuz, reparations by America for the war and damages caused. LPG vessel Jagvikram carrying 20,400 metric tons of LPG safely crosses Strait of Hormuz, expected to dock in India 15th of April. Iranian leaders warn it will continue bombings. They will continue bombings if Israel first policy is followed during the talks. And as the talks continue in Pakistan, ladies and gentlemen, Iranian-American delegations are meeting the Pakistani leadership as we speak. But it's not a simple round-the-table discussion. There have been different threats thrown in these negotiations. The Iranian media is reporting that the US destroyer has turned back from the Strait of Hormuz after Iran's warning. Now, all of these developments are also happening as the talks continue. Let's tell you about this particular incident that's being reported by the Iranian media now. The Foreign Ministry spokesperson has revealed that the US destroyer, there was a US destroyer that attempted to enter the Strait of Hormuz, was forced to retreat after receiving an unequivocal warning from Iran's armed forces, preventing a potential ceasefire violation. Now, these are details coming in. US destroyer was forced to retreat, is what the Iranian media is claiming. This was after Iran denied US warship passage. Senior Iranian officials earlier rejected reports claiming that the US naval vessels had transited the Strait of Hormuz, while claiming that no ships had passed through the Strait of Hormuz since the ceasefire took effect. In fact, they're also saying that the US destroyer retreated. Now, this is happening on the back of the talks that are underway. Both leaders are present in Islamabad. There is no clarity whether they're sitting around the table yet, but they've had indirect meetings, indirect negotiations in Pakistan with the leadership of Pakistan. And as we get you those details, let me also go across to our panelists joining us on this broadcast for the latest update. Lieutenant General P.R. Shankar, PVSM, AVSM, VSM, Strategic Affairs Defense Expert, joining us on the broadcast, along with Raja Faisal, who's a journalist live from Islamabad. Raja, what's the latest? Have they met over the table? There were reports of indirect talks, but any direct talks between Iran and America yet?
Niranjan, the latest is that the direct talks, they have started, and they have started precisely about 45 minutes ago. And in them talks, of course, many of the aspects which were already highlighted, they are being discussed between both of them. And yes, Pakistan is part of these talks. Pakistan is mediating, probably sitting in the middle of both, and making sure that everything is being discussed between both of the parties. Earlier, the reports were the first phase of the talks in which Pakistan, being the mediator, met with the US first and then later on with the delegates from Iran. They one by one met with both of them, and then that's when they decided that the phase 2 can be, of course, initiated. And that's why we are right now, while we are talking, they are, of course, having the second phase going on in which direct talks are being taken place between both of the delegates from US as well as from Iran.
Yeah, thank you for that. Raja, stay with me. I have General Shankar. General Shankar, a very unique situation you have here. Raja Faisal is a journalist and he's giving us a perspective. And what he's saying is also being reported by the Iranian media, sections of the American media. But what I found fascinating is how there is no ceasefire. Right, bombings continue in Lebanon. In fact, this afternoon there were videos that came in from Lebanon of Israel bombardment that continues. It's a very fragile sort of a situation, but despite all of that, the talks are ongoing. And we've just got news that the Iranian media is saying that one vessel turned back, a US destroyer turned back. So it's almost as if they're sitting around the table playing Russian roulette. They're holding gun to each other's head. And it's fascinating in one way, the kind of developments that have taken place. I'd like to get your views on this, sir, the talks in Pakistan.
This whole war, the way it has gone about and everything, you must expect this. Let's not, it's too complicated. Actually, the war is between three protagonists, Israel, Iran, and USA, in which Israel has been out of the talks. The talks are between USA and Iran. So that's the first situation. One participant is out of the talks altogether. So he's acting independently with Lebanon. And, USA says Lebanon was not part of the deal. Israel says it's not part, Lebanon was part of the deal before the talks. Then they threatened, no, we will not talk unless, firing is stopped at Lebanon, but that's continuing and they're talking. And now they come out with the thing that, this destroyer has approached Hormuz and we've turned it away. At the same time, the Iranians said, we put mines in the Hormuz, we don't know where they are, they don't know how to clear it. So it is, everyone is, we don't know at which level who's talking what. And in the same breath, there's some talks going on. We all know, the 15 points by USA and 10 points by Iran. And those 10 points by Iran are also, in three different versions, one given to the public, one given by Pakistan to America, and one given by Iran to America. We don't know which is the 10th points and what it is. Okay, and there's a strange mediation. So this is the way it is going. This war shouldn't surprise us for what it's going to come out and what is going to come out of the ceasefire talks. But at the same time, let me put a ray of hope into this. Iran has not fired on the Gulf countries or on US, right? For the past 24 hours, now I think it's about 36 hours, they're not fired. And across, similarly, USA has not fired. So I think that's the first positive thing. The second positive thing is both the delegations are sitting in Islamabad across a table, which has not happened so far. Even in the talks with Oman, it was through the interlocution of Oman. It was not direct. The Omani foreign minister used to go speak with one delegation, go to the other, and then all this. Here, at the first shot itself, they started after about 45 minutes. After Pakistan met with the US delegation and then met with the Iranian delegation, they must have clarified the issues and got to some way of how to start talking, and they're talking, which is good news, right? So I look at the positives and rather than the negatives. And the negatives we've had enough for the past 36 days, or in fact 42 days. So let's start looking at the positives which can happen. What the talks outcome will be or not and all that is, I think, speculative at this point of time. Let us wait. I'm sure they'll come out with some statement. Either Pakistan will come out with a statement or both the parties will come out with a statement. But that's the way I look at it. And I would also expect a few more, rough edges to come. Because the interested parties on both sides, I would say Iran, Iran itself has got some internal problems, so they will come up with a few versions. So in USA and so in the Gulf countries and with Israel. So there are a lot of people involved in this, so expect some confusion before some sanity prevails. back to you. Let's take it forward.
Yeah, I had another bit of breaking news coming in right now. So let me just quickly get that and go back to our panelists joining us live from both Islamabad and New Delhi. Iran has, in fact, the Iranian media claims that Iran is in also contact with Lebanon because Israel is in no mood for truce with Lebanon, and their bombardment continues on Lebanon. They say that their priorities are set and they are not going to shift from their stated position on Lebanon. And Iran now claims that the ceasefire in Lebanon has not yet been fully realized and that the US is obligated to ensure and compel Israeli government to fulfill this commitment, which was also, by the way, tweeted by Shehbaz Sharif on day one. The Iranian delegation, according to the Iranian media, is pursuing this matter seriously through Pakistani mediators and also within the negotiation room. So Iran is trying to push Lebanon to ensure a ceasefire. Now, this is a very unique situation. It appears that America may have been so far unable to stop Netanyahu, and Iran appears to be at least pushing Lebanon to stop the bombardment. Is this correct? What more can you tell us, Raja, on this front? What was discussed and what the situation is?
Niranjan, the situation is very tricky, and that is related to, of course, Lebanon. Lebanon's government, it claims that we are not at war with Israel. Of course, they have elements within them. Hezbollah, of course, they are active against Israel since the war started. And Israel claims that we are only bombing the Hezbollah, Hezbollah houses or Hezbollah places. But overall, we know that even on Thursday, there was a call to Prime Minister of Pakistan from the Prime Minister of Lebanon. He requested for help in terms of ceasefire in that context as well. And Pakistan actually talked with the US the same day, and they got bit of result in this in this context. And they have two people who are intact with the Israeli government as well, and them two people are right now in Islamabad. I'm talking about Steve Witkoff as well as Jared Kushner. They have very strong relations with the Israeli establishment and Israeli regime right now. And that is why we saw that there was a ceasefire which was declared from them. And overall, for now, of course, they are claiming that the ceasefire is intact. But Iranians, they had reservations. Before coming, they said that they will not be coming until the ceasefire was imposed in Lebanon. That's when Pakistan intervened, and then Pakistan successfully imposed a ceasefire in Lebanon as well. And that's why we saw that last night, the Iranians, they were the first to come to Pakistan. And then this morning, we saw J.D. Vance, as well as there was another plane of Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff. All of them, they came to Pakistan. Right now, the situation is, yes, it's a very tricky situation, but we have the right people to, of course, tell Israel to what to do in the coming future. And that is, of course, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner. They are fully intact with the Israeli government.
Okay. Before I go across to my next report, I just want to get one last response from you, General Shankar. What does America get out of this? Because from all the reports that are coming in, hearing that it's the Iranians who are sort of setting the tone in this entire exercise. They've put the ceasefire conditions down. Yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, this is not the US point of view. There are 2 points of view.
Yeah.
I would say Iran has flooded the social media with their 3 versions of the 10-point plan, and they're setting the thing. But have they set it? They said, we will not come to Pakistan or to Islamabad till such time the Lebanon and Israel thing is sorted out. That's going on. They're sitting and talking still. And now you see the point that Iran is speaking to Lebanon or Hezbollah. Lebanon has no authority. It is Hezbollah who has to be spoken to. They are talking to them to enforce the truce. That means firing shouldn't come from that side also. It's an indication that they're not setting the tone. Let's be very clear. We shouldn't go by what the social media says, and we shouldn't go by what the interested parties talk about it. If you take it on a fair deal, USA has its set of demands, Iran has its set of demands, and at this point of time, there's no meeting ground for them, from what we understand, right? Now, a meeting ground for them has to evolve from these talks. Now, before these talks have come, this issue of Lebanon and Israel has also come. So far, there's not been any talk of Iran trying to keep Lebanon or stroke Hezbollah quiet. This is the first report it has come, which means the thing is going both ways. You have to be patient about this. And I would say that we don't keep reacting to every little snippet of information. This is just setting the stage. And for all you know, America might tell Israel, look, if there's no firing from Hezbollah, you don't fire back. You have to also understand this in one other context. Everyone thought Hezbollah was struck, weakened, everything after, the last year's strike on Nasrallah and, his decapitation and decapitation of Lebanon. But the fact is, Hezbollah had a huge stockpile of rockets and missiles, which they now started using. They're retaliating. It is not a one-way affair. It's a two-way affair, right? It's a two-way affair which is going on out there. So to that extent, one has to be patient in all this. I think both of them will apply pressure on, Hezbollah stroke Lebanon and on Israel to refrain. And only then these talks will continue. The interesting part for me, or the point which I would like to see, is how long will these talks continue?
Yeah.
For today, will it be continuing tomorrow, or today will be only the stage setting so that, piece by piece things go on? Will further developments happen today? All that. And there are a lot of fake news and fake handles talking all kinds of nonsense. Because why? At this point of time, we have to be very clear as to where the actual talks are. And as far as from an Indian perspective, for us, it doesn't matter whether, Iran gets a better deal or US gets a better deal. If they have a deal, it's good for us. Either way, it's good for us, right? And I must put it up. Israel is our strategic partner. USA is our strategic partner. We have strategic partnership with a lot of Gulf countries, including Saudi Arabia and UAE. At this point of time, our foreign minister is in Dubai having talks. We have tremendous equations with Iran. The Iran ambassador in India has just thanked India for sending, medicines, a chest of medicines across to Iran. He's publicly said, we have stakes in Iran. We have friendships, civilizational friendships. So for us, it is important for us to see the outcomes and the approach. Of course, the fact that this whole thing is happening in Pakistan, there will be a reaction in India. I mean, that's a different story. I'm not going to get diverted from on that issue. Let's look at it from the way the talks are happening and the outcome of the talks. At this point of time, we are reacting to the inputs of the talks to set the stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my take. We can discuss further.
Absolutely. And just one last word from Raja, because I'm getting in different reports, not his analysis, but more about what is being discussed there, because we are being told, and everyone's reporting it now, that it was Iran that told Pakistan to inform America that if that US destroyer moved through the Strait of Hormuz or came closer, it would be attacked in 30 minutes, and it took a U-turn, and it's being reported everywhere now, including American media, which is confirming that that destroyer has gone back. But Raja, my question to you was, Iranian diplomats say that they have demanded, they're saying we are not negotiating, we are demanding, and for us the red lines are Strait of Hormuz under full Iranian control, which is unlikely to happen given what UAE is saying. Even the UAE is saying that is not possible, that is impossible that Iran gets full control of Strait of Hormuz. Second, Iran will get war reparations. We haven't heard about it. Of course, initial stages of the talks, like General was mentioning. Frozen Iranian assets will be released. America has denied reports of that happening today because they had said that as a precondition for talks. And fourth, stable ceasefire in all areas relevant to Iran. Now, there are indications that that could happen. But they say that there are 4 red lines. Is this correct? Can this happen? And then I'll move on to my next report. Yeah, Raja.
It is correct, and these are the demands, and of course it has Gaza included in this as well, rebuilding Gaza, and then peace restored to Gaza. And when it comes to Lebanon, of course they are seeking peace for Lebanon as well, and Iran itself. When it comes to claiming it, they have the might and the muscle to prove that they can take the control of it. So far, they have actually practically controlled Hormuz. But to me, I think there would be more players from the region. Maybe from the Gulf region, or maybe Pakistan has a role to play at Hormuz as well. Reason being, you can't just leave the control of Hormuz to only one country. And there will be, maybe more than one countries that will ensure the security of Hormuz, and they will be ensuring that, the total ceasefire is imposed, and the assassination spree, which we have been seeing in recent times from the Israeli side, that would end. And when it comes to, end of war, it would mean that even Israel would not do anything in the region that, that can ignite another war in coming days. So this is the overall situation from this side. And when we talk about, their seized assets, they are going to be released. I have been, of course, talking to someone, Tehran, and they are saying that they have been given assurances about it, that they will be released.
Okay, interesting times.
And